Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now, episode 67, I believe. We're past that Halloween 66 coincidence. Ooh, here we are. Back Total Hockey Now, first episode of November. Over there is at Ant Rivera 86. Down there is at Fuzzy Chris 91. Fresh off of a 9 of 9 Puck Doku performance this week over on the Slapshot podcast. So shout out and congrats to you at Pucking Thoughts right here. Fellas, it's still early in the season, but I feel like we are now in the hockey season. The season, the early season festivities are worn off, and now we are into the nitty gritty of the schedule.
Hockey has started because John Tortorella has started to bench Matvei Michkov. So that's how you know the season is in full swing. John Tortorella is back on the bus of what are we doing?
Yeah, this is the part of the season where now you could start taking a look at your fantasy teams and saying, you know what, maybe it's time to look at the waiver wire. Maybe it's time to, get rid of some of these players. I did one today. That's my first one of the season. I said, let me wait a little bit, see if these guys can get on track. I didn't like the way one was playing. I'm pretty sure we'll check in on the lineups later, but it's game time. Time to get focused. We're getting into it.
You're right. Now is the time that guys that you don't want to make knee-jerk roster adjustments or add drops, after a couple of weeks because guys have only at that point have only played 4 or 5, 6 games. But now teams have played, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. So, now we're starting to get a little bit of a clearer picture here. And we're going to do all that today. We're going to do some fantasy focus. We'll go through the headlines. We'll check in with the league. We'll give a pick from tonight's 12-game slate as well. But, let's get right into it here. And some news that came down right before the show. Before we went live is the NCAA and the CHL. No, you used to be able to pick one path. Well, now playing in the CHL will not invalidate, and you will maintain your NCAA eligibility. Like we said in the past, one game would automatically disqualify you. So now, you're 16 years old. You want to go play, in the CHL in one of the 3 leagues there, the OHL, the QMJ, Quebec Major Maritime Junior Hockey League, and the Western Hockey League, play there for a couple of years and still go to college and get an education and get the best of both worlds.
I mean, it's about time, right? I don't know why. I mean, the NCAA does things kind of their way. They kind of want to dictate the pace a lot of times. It's a lot of cut and dry, and it's not always fair to players. So I think this gives them more options, gives them different avenues and paths that they want to look at. It's not uncommon for Canadians to go south of the border and get their education and play hockey at the same time. We don't see a lot of Americans come north though, so maybe that opens the path as well for them if they want to play in the CHL. But it's only positive for the players, which is always good.
Yeah, it feels like they never put the kids and the players first here when it comes to this. And nice to see that, they'll be able to get their education, play hockey as well. And that's what you want to see. That's what you want to get from something like this happening.
Now, Chris referenced it off the top. Without further ado, let's talk about Matvei Michkov. He's going to be a healthy scratch for the first time in his short career tonight. And Anthony Richard will make his Flyers debut in his place. Head coach John Tortorella said, quote, "It's part of the process with young guys. They can watch games too as far as development, so it's trying to help them," and quote. Michkov got off to a hot start, scoring 9 points in a 7-game span, but only has 1 point in his last 5 games. They do play Tampa tonight, which, by the way, Andrei Vasilevsky going for career win 300 in that one. So we'll see if he gets to that milestone. But is this the beginning of Torts playing games, or is this just hey, this is a rookie in his very first season? Just, it's not unheard of for guys like that to maybe spend a game or 2 in the press box. I'm not hearing that Michkov, didn't say God bless you quick enough to Tortorella when he sneezed and it's all right, that's it. You're up in the press box for the night. So I don't know if anything like that's at play. I'd like to give Tortorella the benefit of the doubt and say this is just, a rookie getting a scratch. Just, sometimes it's good for him.
I mean, sure, but the Philadelphia Flyers are the worst team in the Metropolitan Division. They don't really score goals. Michkov has 10 in 13 games, which, yes, I know he's slowed down a little bit, but that's just part of the process there, if Torts want to call it. I don't know what benefit he could really gain from watching his team get obliterated tonight. But if there's something I'm missing, this could only confirm, like, I expect the Flyers to go out, kind of get manhandled, and then maybe Michkov can say, oh, I'm important to this team. Gotcha. That's what I might have learned. But I mean, I don't know. Like, if you want a player to get better, sure, there are probably different ways to go about it. But I don't think he's going to learn much either on the offensive side or on the defensive side of the puck by sitting in a press box, eating some popcorn.
Well, it doesn't help if you're a fantasy owner, right? We talked about this all summer long. If you're drafting Michkov, that this is a possibility that this could happen. So it doesn't really help those guys out. But the player itself, I kind of agree a little bit with Adam. The fact that maybe he needs to go through a little bit of adversity, being sit here, and maybe, it lights a lamp. He struggled to score some points here in the last couple of games. I think you mentioned when we were in our chat. So maybe he, turns it around here.
This is what I'll say. If it's just a 1 game or maybe even 2 game, being sent to the press box, because they do play Florida on Saturday night, so there's a tough 2-game stretch here. That's fine, but then you got to bring him back. If this becomes one of these things, and they play San Jose on Monday, that's a nice soft landing spot. If he doesn't dress Saturday night, maybe he dresses Saturday night, and this is not a big deal. But if he starts playing these games where, all right, you're playing tonight, but I didn't like how you played, so now you're going to sit Monday. You sit him, make your point, and then let him get back into a rhythm. Not this play 2-3 games and have to sit for a game. If you're gonna let him have a stretch, and then if he's still not going, because that's to me, rookies don't develop, especially when you're coming over from a different league entirely with a bigger surface and all that stuff. By getting started. It's better to play, and then all right, you know what, you're going to take a night or 2 off, reset, but. Maybe this is just a one-time thing and we're not talking about it, but with Torts, you never know.
It just doesn't seem I get that he's, again, because people care about the plus minus. I get that he's a -8, but I mean, Owen Tippett's a -9. What is Owen Tippett sitting next? I just don't. I don't think now is the time to send a message 13 games in to a kid who has never, who hasn't played in the NHL and who did play professionally in Russia. So I don't think this is the path that should have been chosen this early. Maybe later on, if you go through a struggle and it starts to last, 10, 15 games, you're not playing well in your own zone, you're not generating any chances, fine, maybe give him a game off. But the Flyers are terrible, and that is the entire team. So it just seems like Michkov's paying the price right now.
State of Survival checking in. Worst team. That's saying a lot considering the other teams he mentions in the division there. Pens, Isles, Caps, and Blue Jackets. He's surprised by the Capital start there. We could talk a little Metropolitan Division here. I mean, they are in last place in the division right now. 3 points behind the Blue Jackets, Islanders, and Penguins. All have 12 points right at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, out of the gate, they're probably the worst team in the Metro. I mean, I'm not ready to say they're going to be the finish at the bottom. It's still a long season. It's too early to start. But, yeah, they're in that. There's 2 tiers right now in the Metropolitan Division. There is the Carolina, Washington, Devils, Rangers tier, and then there's everybody else. So, yeah, they are very much in that second tier there. I don't know if if you out of those 4, who has the best chance to climb out. I have no idea. But, yeah, Washington's start has been surprising. And, they did. They brought in Chychrun. They went going with the goalie tandem between Lindgren and Thompson. So, I mean, they made adjustments for the better, and they seem to be working out, even though Chychrun's hurt. Bringing in Dylan Strome, I thought was a great, all you need is a guy is to feed Ovechkin the puck. That's all you're trying to do right now. So,
well,
I mean,
don't forget, Pierre-Luc Dubois has been playing well, too, for them. So that's been a good move as well.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys think Pierre-Luc Dubois is playing well. I'm glad he's earning his contract.
By his standards.
By his standards, right. He is, he's committed highway robbery with his contract, but, he is breathing. Yes, right. Dylan Strome is definitely off to a start. I think he's figured out how to play with Ovechkin. And like you said, just give Ovi the puck and good things will happen, because I did not have him leading this team in points. Ovechkin has obviously demonstrated that he might be slowing down a little bit, but he is still an elite hockey player. He can still fire the puck. He's racking up assists too, which is, a nice little cherry on top. I don't think the shot volume will ever be what it once was for him, but he's still racking up points. Connor McMichael has looked really good. I think that's why this Capitals team, despite being frauds last year, they look less fraudulent this year just because they are getting some of that, secondary scoring. They did go out and get Chikrin, solidifies that blue line. The goaltending is much better too. That probably helps, right? Imagine a world where you get good goaltending and then your team is also good. I feel like that's something that's unheard of for some of these teams.
Don't forget the addition of Matt Roy, also a nice boon on that blue line because you need guys like that too.
That is true.
I mean, we're already talking Caps. Let's talk about Ovechkin and his pace right now out of the gate. He's got 6 goals in his last 5 games, 8 in 12 total this year. He took him 43 games to get to 8 goals last year. So he's already well ahead of that pace. So he's at 861 for his career, 34 away from breaking Gretzky's 894 after last night's win over Nashville. He also became the 3rd player age 39 or older to score in 5 or more consecutive games, joining Johnny Busick in 1974 and Brett Hull in 2003. He's 6 away from breaking Jaromir Jagr's record for the most career game-winning goals as well. And also, just if you're a fan of fashion, those Eagles Screaming Eagle, the Capitals Screaming Eagle jerseys, those black jerseys that Ovechkin loves. He's scoring. He's 8 for 8. He has scored a goal while wearing that. So there you go. There's a lot of things to be happy about in Washington right now. So 70 games to go. He needs 34. That's a goal every other game. I mean, he's gonna. It's not just gonna be that simple. He's gonna get hot, cool off, get hot, cool off. But I mean, besides injury or an extreme cold streak, I don't think there's any reason to doubt he's going to break this year. But I mean, he's still got to maintain a pace, though.
Yeah. Hey, if I would like to know their record in those Eagle jerseys, because if they're winning and he's scoring goals, they should just wear them every day. You know who's excited about this play from Ovi right now? It's this guy. This guy right here. I drafted him, so I'm very excited from what he's been producing over the last couple of weeks. And I hope it continues. Unfortunately for Fuzzy Chris, I know that's a little different because we're going up against each other.
I'd like him to slow down just for the weekend, maybe go swim in a pond or something if it's still warm enough in DC. He has been very good. And I mean, maybe he slows down a little bit just because he is older, but he's still, his shot volume is still decent. He's shooting 20%, right? Which I think is going to cool off at some point. But I mean, he's still 2 minutes on the power play. I was watching him play yesterday. Homie just, stands in his office and I mean, he's waiting to rip it, right? And the rest of now I think the supporting cast around him this season is better. Like you said, Strome is out there, McMichael. There's still, John Carlson is still there. He's having a great year as well. There's still enough pieces around Ovechkin to get this done. I don't know if he's breaking that record this year, but I mean, he is he's there. He's going to make it interesting. I don't think it's a question now of if he breaks Wayne Gretzky's record. I think it's a question of when. Now it just feels like he's going to do it.
For him to do it this season, he's going to need a couple of spikes in production, and he's got 30 career hat tricks, but he hasn't had one since New Year's Eve 2022. So if he's going to get there this year, and factoring in that there's, he's going to cool off a little bit, I don't think he maintains his pace, obviously. He's going to need 1, maybe 2 vintage hat trick performances this season to help him get there this year, because you need 30. Basically, we said it's 34, so it's pretty much a goal every other game the rest of the way. He can do that, but again, that's not allowing for a few games where he doesn't light the lamp or maybe misses a game, but for an injury or whatever reason. So yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. There's going to be a Capitals playoff run, probably overlapping with an Ovi goal count. So that'll be cool to see as March and April approaches there. Let's see here. State of survival. Also, he says Dylan Strome is an ace to get over 100 points this season. I certainly, if Ovi's not scoring on that line, then Strome might be the guy to get the goal there, so off a rebound or whatever. So totally see that. He's more worried about there being so many good players having down year that they take the summer off. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Zach Hyman's been scoring lately. I think he's finally waking up. Stamkos, we'll talk about the Predators in a little while. Michael Bunting. I mean, I don't know how much you expect out of Bunting there in
Isn't
Pittsburgh.
Barzal hurt?
Barzal's been
did get
hurt.
hurt, yeah.
Matthews is, day to day, at least for now. Nyquist, I thought, he's right. He's got 7 points. I mean, I think that's right on target for what he.
There's Revel out here calling Bunting and Nyquist good players. So that is a
I was looking at the
choice.
Predators early today. He's got 4 and 3 for Nyquist through,
Which is good.
I think that's right on pace for him.
You're right. Hey, both of those guys. Bunting is the one that I think is that's a choice. That's a choice. But I mean, if Bunting watches this, I mean, at least your general manager and State of Survival think you are a good hockey player.
He wants to know which team will be first to make a trade. Who do you think will be in the deal? That's something I'd like to think about more, but that's maybe a topic for next week if we don't have any big trades before then. I like that topic. So there we go. So we talked Ovechkin there. Connor McDavid returned to the Oilers lineup in a loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, and he returned earlier than expected from a 2 to 3 week window from an ankle injury. We were initially saying maybe this weekend he would be back, but he gets back a little bit before that. But let's not bury the lead here. The Vegas Golden Knights on November 6th get their first road win of the season and are now 1-3-1 on the road, but they are dominant and undefeated at home, currently sitting at 8-0-0. Something about that home cooking. That Vegas loves their Golden Knights, so definitely a little bit of a home crowd advantage there.
Just something about this Vegas team that they are always up there at the top of the league, always contending for a playoff spot. They got the Stanley Cup. They've been to a couple. For an expansion team, man, that and I know we've talked about this in the past, but kudos to that whole organization and who runs that. And I know they've taken advantage of some things like the Mark Stone, but they just know how to run business there in Vegas.
House never loses, right? So they're staying true to that. I will say this: I do owe Noah Hannafin and Mark Stone a beer if they're ever in town. I will buy the first one because I had the Vegas Puckline yesterday, and I thought that was dead as I was falling asleep with my iPad in my hand. And when I woke up to the absolute surprise of Noah Hannafin scoring with like 40 some odd seconds left in the game to give Vegas the lead, and then Mark Stone with 5 seconds left and an empty netter. Usually that doesn't go my way. Usually I'm on the receiving end of those crushing losses. So it was nice to wake up and see that had worked out for me. That's how I knew that today was going to be a good day, because I saw that happen. I was like, there's no way it can get it can only keep getting better. You know what I mean? So I owe those two gentlemen, as much as I say bad things about Mark Stone and his back and the Vegas Golden Knights and cap circumventing, I owe them one for that.
Now it will be interesting to see how his back holds up when it starts to get cold, and we're not going to have that discussion again. But cold by Vegas desert standards, cold that affects your muscles. Okay, it doesn't have to be like Canada cold for your muscles to tighten up because it's cold. We'll see how he handles the winter. But nonetheless, that Eichel Barbashev Stone line, have fun with that one. They're just doing what they want to do out there. Now, speaking of ankle injuries, Cale Makar hurt his ankle against the Kraken in a 6-3 Avalanche win the other night, and he left the game, came back, and then left again. But he is making the trip and was skating in practice this morning. Game time decision for tonight in Winnipeg. So I mean, if they've gone that far, I can't imagine he's not going to play. Braden Point out for the time being with a lower body injury. He's going to miss his second straight tonight against the Flyers. Austin Matthews day-to-day with an upper body injury, so two of the top centers in the Atlantic are MIA for the moment. Regarding Matthews, Craig Berube specified it is not related to a previous wrist injury from Matthews, so I guess that's good news.
I mean, it's the Leafs, man. Whatever it is at this point, I need more from Matthews as a player who is on my team. I need more. I need shots. I need goals. I need whatever he can provide me, because I'm trying to keep this hot pace, this dominant start to my fantasy year, trying to, collect those early wins. And I need Matthews to heal up. I need Matthews to go to Connor, and whatever he took to recover in record time, I want him to feed Matthews. I know it's not ketchup, since we know Connor McDavid does not like ketchup. So whatever was in that meal plan or whatever they did to miraculously bring McDavid back from what seemed like at least a 6-game absence, I need them to give that to Matthews, please.
Not to go on a sidebar here, I'm okay with ketchup, but like ketchup on a hot dog, just no. Like, I don't know what, no.
I'm with McDavid here. I don't like ketchup.
I fries, sometimes on your eggs it's good. Like I don't put it on a ton of a burger sometimes if it's a little dry. But I mean, I'm not a huge ketchup person. I don't dislike it.
What do you put on the burger then?
I mean, obviously cheese, and then like maybe some barbecue sauce, or if you mix ketchup and mayo together, that's basically like Big Mac sauce almost. I mean, I know they use Thousand Island, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, those, or sometimes maybe, or it's honestly, a good burger should not need any of those accoutrements. Maybe like a little lettuce or onion or tomato, but good beef should have good flavor. It shouldn't need ketchup.
True.
Lettuce, tomato, olives, and jalapenos if they're possible. No sauce, though. Not a sauce guy.
Yeah, like a good burger shouldn't need it. Like, and if I'm putting it on there, then, if it comes on it already, like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to be like, scrape it off. But we got a suggestion from State of Survival. Go to McDonald's, dip your fries in the soft ice cream. It tastes great. I don't doubt that. I think I've done that in the past. But yeah,
if the ice cream machine works, of course, which that alone is basically, that's a bigger toss up than who will John Tortorella bench the next game.
Yeah, it really is a 50-50 shot. So, when it works, yeah, absolutely, dip the fries in there and get a little bit of that. We will get to your fantasy question later. What was your last drop pickup and why do you do it? When we review our league, we will take a look at that for each of us. We'll see what we've done there. Before we get into that, a couple of things we want to get to before we head to fantasy focus. First up, let's talk a little Nashville Predators. We're 1 week into November, and the Preds are 4-8-1, 15 points behind first place Winnipeg, although that's more due to Winnipeg just being a juggernaut right now. So that gap will close when Winnipeg's pace cools off. Minnesota's off to a red hot start. Dallas is doing what they're supposed to do. Colorado has their reasons for why they struggled, but they finally seem to be finding some footing and winning a little bit more lately. So there are a lot of changes in Nashville. We've asked this on and off the last few weeks, okay, a lot of new players in there, transitional time. You see Saros maybe not off to the best start here, but like it's not time to hit the panic button yet. But I feel like we're starting to get close to that, aren't we? I mean, well, what's the cutoff here? We did last year. We talked American Thanksgiving was like, okay, X amount of playoff teams that are in now get into the playoffs. Like, is that really the cutoff before we start to worry about the Preds?
I think so. I mean, they started the season off 0-5, and then they've gone 4-3-1. So they've kind of turned it around. Kind of, are going across the straight line there. Let's see if they can pick it up. The only thing that's really concerning for me is that, Saros is having a tough time here. And that's the one player, right? Like he's your top end goalie. He's a top line goalie. He's the one guy that you would expect to be playing well and to lead this team. And he's been struggling.
And he's just the guy you just gave a ton of money to do what he's been doing. So
I will answer State of Survival's question where he asked what team is going to make the first trade. I think it is going to be Nashville. Now, Nashville has no cap space, so that's problem number one. Problem number two, you signed all these big free agents to a lot of money, so you can't move them, right? Because you're not going to give up on them like 15 games into the year. And Barry Trotz has come out and says if this team's not going to like figure it out, he's going to like rebuild it. I don't think he means rebuild because, again, you don't go out and spend that kind of money so you can rebuild 15 games later, right? Here's one thing, though. Nashville has 3 first-round picks this year. They have the one from Tampa Bay in that, I think it was that dreaded Tanner Jeannot trade. That one didn't work out from Tampa Bay. They also have the first one from Vegas, and I don't know how they've acquired it, but they have a first-round pick from Vegas. So they have 3 picks here. So they have some leverage if they want to go out and acquire a player. The problem is they're probably going to have to move one of those picks, and they know it. And now it's a question of, do you want to compete or do you not? Again, I don't think you go out, get all those players so you cannot compete. Now, they sit last in the NHL, right? But this team can't score goals. Like, how much more goal scoring can you add, right? Like, there's only so much you can do. They're not terrible. They're just not playing well. So, like, I don't think they're going to change coach. Like, I don't think that's the issue here, right? You bring in a lot of new guys. Everybody's trying to get acclimated to how they got to play. But to me, I think Nashville's going to be the first team to make a move, because you can't let this drag along. You cannot let this drag along, and you have to figure it out. You spent too much money in the offseason to be this bad. So figure it out. And I believe Barry Trotz will. I don't think he's going to move some of those like big names, but I feel like this team is going to add. I just don't know where, and I don't know how they're going to do it. But there are smarter people than me in front office who will do the math. If the Vegas Golden Knights can circumvent the cap, I'm sure Nashville can as well. I've also been reminded that in the state of Tennessee, they have no state income tax. So I'm sure there are players who would love to move to Tennessee and take advantage of that.
No, I mean, we're talking about, the money they spent, obviously the Saros contract, but, Philip Forsberg, 10 points out of the gate, Ryan O'Reilly, 10 points out of the gate, Roman Josi, goal and 6 assists, and just all around top-notch defenseman. Those guys doing their jobs. Gustav Nyquist mentioned before, 4 goals, 3 assists. Jonathan Marchessault, 2 goals, 5 assists. Stamkos has got 6 points, 3 and 3. So maybe you'd like the pace of 2 of those guys to be a little bit better, but not too bad. Overall, it's just and where do they make that upgrade? Do they need more of a presence up front, in that bottom 6? Do they need maybe another puck mover in that blue line? Because, I mean, Yossi Shea is a good top pairing. It starts to get a little thin after that, though, So maybe that's an area they look to improve. They're going to have to, like you said, they don't have a ton of cap space, so they may have to, the first-round picks are absolutely appealing, but they're going to have to figure out a way to maybe clear that space and maybe have a team take a little more to make that space. But, like you said, something's got to change soon. There's too many expectations in Nashville this year. Winnipeg's playing really, really well. Like we said, Minnesota, maybe they come back down to earth, but they've at least look like a good team right now. Dallas, we know what they are. There's only so many spots. Colorado starting to come out of it.
On paper, it kind of leading into the season, I think you would probably put Nashville up there in top 3 of teams that had the best offseason with all the moves that they made. So
yeah, I would put them there.
Yeah, let's, like you said, Adam, let's see, as we get to Thanksgiving, where this team's at, because that's really where, and I know the Oilers had a crazy, crazy run, but that's kind of where the Oilers really started to make their run, was right around, I think, Thanksgiving last year.
I mean, I don't know if they can't make a trade, is there a coaching? I mean, I don't think a coaching change is necessarily in order. The thing that jumps out at me is a 7.3% shooting percentage, which ranks pretty low. I think that's dead last in the league. If it's not, it's down in the bottom of 5. Power plays, that's almost 21%. That ranks for 13th in the league. You'd like it to be a little bit better with the 2 guys you added this offseason, but that's not the worst thing in the world. They have the top penalty kill in the league. So, I mean, that's not the problem either. So, again, maybe it's just patience. Maybe it's just guys are gripping the stick too tight and just, the puck's not coming off the stick the right way when you see shooting percentage that low. But I think maybe some more offense needs to be generated from the back end. But like you said, a change is coming in Nashville soon, like Chris said, because you can't let this get too far down the line.
It has to come from the back end, because like I can't imagine them adding more players to it. Like, the one problem for me here is, right, you look at Jonathan Marchessault, right, 4.9% shooting. It's not going to cut it, especially when he's a player who takes a decent amount of shots. Roman Josi as well. He has 57 shots on goal. He has 1 goal. That's a 1.8 shooting. I get he's a defenseman, but you can't be taking 57 shots on goal and like none of them finding the back of the net, right? Like, I get it'll come at some point. Maybe the looks are not as good. Maybe there's something there. Like I said, like you said, right? Power play maybe a little bit better, but defensively on the penalty kill, they're good. They're not great defensively, but they're not terrible. And yes, UC Saros has to get better. The solution is probably in that room, right? Like they're not bad. They're just not playing well. And those are 2 different things. This isn't a terrible team. This is just guys not doing what they need to do. And sometimes you need to go out and inject something into that lineup. I don't think it's going to be a forward from like the back end. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a defenseman. And like you said, someone who can move the puck, because it can't just be just Josi every night, right? You need a defenseman who can move the puck. The problem is how many of those are you going to find, early November?
I mean, maybe maybe it's a not a blockbuster, but maybe it's like a defenseman that we've, Like I know Vegas has a couple. Maybe they can. Maybe this is where a deal with term, and it's not necessarily a guy on an expiring contract. Maybe this is a bigger thing that happens, but something's got to change in Nashville soon because, like we said, Thanksgiving here is 3 weeks away. And at that point now you're getting closer to being, a quarter of the way into the season. And I know what Edmonton did last year, but that's not something that happens every year. There's not a team that goes from dead last in their division to all the way to the Stanley Cup. That is the exception. That is not the rule. So
it's like some people get confused here. They're like, "Oh, well, Edmonton did it." I was like, "Cool, they're the exception to the rule. They are not the rule. Don't get it twisted."
And they have guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, so you have
That
two of the
helps.
top 5 players on the planet. That also can give you an opportunity to make up for basically 2 months of god awful play. So we'll see what happens here with the Predators, and maybe Saros gets a little bit better. Is the defense in front of him is a little bit better? All these things go hand in hand and tie with one another. Going to do a little fantasy focus here coming up. But first, let's talk about the Professional Women's Hockey League. They revealed their jerseys this week. We're going to pop them up on the screen here, as you can see there. You got the Toronto Scepters. You got Ottawa, the Chargers, who I don't like that jersey or logo at all. Then you got the Minnesota Frost, the New York Sirens. Chris, you can pronounce the Montreal Victorie. How we say that?
Victoire.
Victoire. Okay. They taught French in my elementary school, so a little bit, back there in my brain. And then you got from Boston, the Fleet. Now, at first, I like. So I'm just going to go through all these, and then we can pick our favorites. I mean, the Toronto Scepters is fine. Like I said, I don't like that Ottawa logo at all. It looks. I don't know. It doesn't look right to me. The Frost is awesome with the purple and the lavender. Sirens is awesome. I like all of them. I don't love the colors of the Boston Fleet, but I do like the sideways, like whaler logo, kind of like representing that B. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ottawa.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll say this. Look, there's only 2 good jerseys here. All right. And that is the Minnesota Frost and Montreal. That's it. Those are the 2 best ones to me. Minnesota is so good to me, and I love purple and lavender. I may have to cop one of those. That's how much I like that one.
Interesting.
The Frost is probably, I'd have to say that's my favorite. I'll bring up the white jerseys here, the lights in a second. But yeah, like the Montreal is super nice. The Frost is nice. Toronto's basic. Boston's basic. New York Sirens I like. It's the colors are a little different. It got the bold sirens, which is got that New York, New Jersey area kind of vibe to it. But yeah, I'm not the rest are like but the Frost is where it's at.
Yeah,
I don't think the Toronto one is like too bad. I like the colors, not the logo. Logo just kind of doesn't do it for me. But the Ottawa one is pretty bad. It looks very the Ottawa one looks very, I don't know, just looks basic.
Looks very Calgary.
It looks like the Temu.com version of if you wanted a Calgary Flames jersey, and that's what they sent you. That's just me.
It looks like a cartoon wheel came off of like a Fred Flintstone car. That's what it looks like to me.
It's not great. I do agree that the Minnesota Frost one is very nice. The color is good, even if it's just an F. It's very good, right? The Sirens one I think is good as well. That one has like a lot going on, but I enjoy it, right? The Montreal one obviously I enjoy the most. And like you said, the which one's that last one? The Boston Fleet. That one's a pretty good too. The same thing. The colors are, I guess it's because like I'm thinking of the Bruins, which are 2 different things as well. But I mean, I can get to love it.
I do like that alternate Montreal jersey better. That
the cream color versus the white.
I love cream colored jerseys. I don't care what sport it is. I love cream colored jerseys. And the Minnesota, I'll take the home one and I'll take the away one. I like both of those.
Yeah, so like most of the, I agree. Of the white jerseys, the Minnesota Frost one is nice, and the cream colored Montreal one is great. The rest are whatever. Although I do like the Boston white jersey better than the dark jersey for sure. Yeah. Sirens, dark is better than light. Ottawa, no dice, and if I was going to get a Toronto jersey between the two, I would go dark over light, but that's, just kind of whatever.
The Boston one, I don't know if it's because of the lighting or maybe it's just my eyes. It looks more like the colors of the Kraken. And then when I look at the away jersey, it actually looks more green, jetsy looking. I don't know. It looks like two different colors to me.
I almost feel like with the logo, they should have gone heavy with the white in the logo with the green as the trim to kind of offset. Whatever. I mean, they're still nice. And then, hey, 2 more expansion teams coming next year. So that's going to be cool. We'll get to see what cities and what names they come up with. And that's, they always come up with unique names for these leagues. And that's always pretty cool. So there we go. A little PWHL jersey talk here on Total Hockey Now. Don't forget, give us a like, rate, subscribe, follow on all the, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those platforms there. It's time to get to a little fantasy focus, though. And the guy I want to talk about today is a guy that Anthony is pretty familiar with there, Dawson Mercer. Chris will get a look at him tonight when the Canadiens and the Devils play. That's not a game he's probably looking forward to very much. He's only rostered in 20% of Yahoo leagues. He's got 3 goals, 5 assists, 23 shots on goal, 15 blocks. I know he got off to a slow start. He's playing much better lately. Plays on the Devils' top line. He's on the point on the second power play unit. First penalty kill unit. Is this someone you're trying to make room for in your roster, or does he get lost in the mix because of just all the Devils firepower they have? Is he somebody that gets lost in the mix appropriately because of all those other guys?
I think so. I think he does. And he's always been so up and down. Like there has been times in seasons where I would pick him up and he'd have a good couple of games, like really good couple of games, like if he was going to take off, and then he'd, go back down and he won't be scoring any points. But you look at the line he's on. Nico Hischier is one of the top goal scorers in the league right now. So you throw him alongside Timo Meier. Those are the 2 guys you're going to think that's going to score the most points out of the 3. So I do think that Dawson Mercer gets a little lost on this line. And maybe that's why he's only 20% rostered. Now, before we got started here, I was looking to make a play here, and I considered picking up Mercer, and I said, you know what, I just, there was too many other players out there that I thought had better starts than Mercer, even though he's picked it up. But I do have my eye on. He is starred on my league, in our league.
I don't know, man. He's like, a lot of times what you're looking for in fantasy is guys with opportunity, and he's getting the opportunity. I think if he sticks there on that top line, I think good things are going to happen to him. There's no room for him on that top power play unit, and that's unfortunate. But I mean, he's a guy who is on his line. He's not the shooter, right? So that kind of takes a little bit of that value away from him. He's not out there to like throw his weight around, blocks a couple shots here and there, but like that's not what he's in your lineup for. But I don't know, man. Like it's not bad. I think in a deeper format, yes. Like I'm thinking like 14-teamer and more. 12? In a 12-team league, it's like cutoff. It's like if you need it, I feel like think of him as like the 13th forward for like a Olympic team. Like he's there, but he on a fantasy team, like he may not get a regular shift in. You know what I mean? Like he's the guy who I can pick up if another player is hurt, right? Just because the opportunity is there and I can rotate him in. And then once my player comes back, then I can drop him and kind of, in and out of my roster as I need.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's unfortunate because he's checking off a lot of the boxes that you want, right? He's playing like close to 18, 19 minutes a night, which is good, right? The Devils are 18 stacked to score, which is good. He's on the top line. So like he's doing things you want him to do and he's getting the opportunity. So like, why am I not more like excited for him? I don't know.
He's just not, he's in our league, especially where all of these categories add up here. Obviously on the top line, 3 goals, 5 assists. That's good for right now for him, but shots on goal, 23. Face-off wins, only 4, especially since he's going to be on the one side of the line. So you could cross that one off. He's only got 5 hits. He's only got 15 blocks. I mean, there's too many players that even if they're not scoring goals, like look at a Nick Schmaltz. He's got like 11 assists, but no goals. But he's providing you other areas that you may need points for. So you're just not getting the points from Dawson Mercer right now that you would need in all of these categories.
I think for a forward, he gets an okay amount of blocks. I mean, that's not usually where you're going for blocks, but it's nice to have a little supplemental production from other positions. I think Chris kind of nailed it. He's a guy where if you need an injury replacement and he happens to, and he's on a streak like he is right now, where he's got 4 in his last, he's got a goal and 4 assists in his last 5 games. You ride that wave, but he's not a guy that like you hold on to because like, all right, like once you start to see him cool off, on to the next one. Or if your injury, if your guy's coming back off of IR, he's a guy that's expendable. He's definitely one of those, you stream him, you pick him up, you keep him when you need him to, and you drop him, maybe he finds a regular spot in a 12-team league if your team is that banged up or, for whatever reason, or, if there's an injury to anybody else in the Devils' top 6 or on that top power play unit, then he's going to get some more time there. So maybe that's a time to consider him as well, but definitely more of a streamable guy than a guy you're going to keep. But Dawson Mercer, at least we'll see if he keeps it going tonight for the Montreal Canadiens, but producing right now. So there you go. We like to do a little focus on a player here whenever we can, whenever there's somebody intriguing out there. Let's go to the league here. Now, he's State of Survival wanted to know what our last transaction was. So let's and why. So let's see here. So first up, we got the Flying V's. We'll start with that. Tom Wilson was the ad, and Jeff Skinner was the drop. Why did we do it?
Jeff Skinner was just not giving me anything, really. I mean, I think he had 3 goals, 3 assists, but like his production on a game-to-game basis was pretty much non-existent. And I had expected more from him, at least while Connor McDavid was out. Tom Wilson, we talked about Dawson Mercer just not providing in other categories, and Tom Wilson does on a second line, with Pierre-Luc Dubois as well. So, and Connor McMichael, who just got picked up on the other side of that line. So, yeah, I think I gave Jeff Skinner as much as leeway as I could to start the season. As I said, I don't like to do too many transactions. Maybe something it'll pick up, and I thought that I thought he would do well, as you always want to pick up someone from that Edmonton team. It's just not him. He just was not playing well. So got rid of him and picked up Wilson.
And I think on your team, like you said, one of the things you're going to get is hits, and he certainly provides that. You're getting some of that from Ovechkin and Hurdle as well. You're getting decent sources on the blue line, and then JT Miller. But after that, and Byfield is there too. Starts to get, but I mean, it's only one category, but you like that. That is one thing he brings to the table there. So that was Anthony's last transaction. For me, it was adding Jacob Middleton because Cale Makar is day to day. So that's an easy one right there. If Makar comes back tonight, let's take a look. It's a game time decision. Obviously, Makar is a must play. So if he comes back, Jacob Middleton probably goes back out to the waiver wire there. I mean, I could also look at doing that to Mario Ferraro, but Mario Ferraro giving me a ton of hits and just about the same amount of blocks there, and almost over double what Middleton does, even though Middleton's giving me a tiny bit more offense on that top pairing, but that's not really what he's there for. Anthony's got Brock Faber. That's the guy that's generating the offense there on that pairing. So I'm not going to say that, tell my moves as in the league with multiple people watching. But yes, my last move was Middleton as a ad just in case Makar was a long-term thing. But I think Makar hopefully will be back in the lineup tonight for me. So there we go. And let's look at Chris's last transaction as we find that. Fuzzy Chris, Jordan Kyrou spent $15 of a waiver budget to let Tanner Janot go. And that's definitely an upgrade there.
It is. I don't know who dropped Jordan Kyrou, but thank you. Sometimes we give up on players a little bit earlier, and that's fine. I had Tanner Janot in there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to provide hits. And as the year is going on, I'm just not winning that category, or I'm not coming close to it. So kind of like the plus minus stat, I'm just like, whatever. The same thing with like winning faceoffs. Like I got guys who can take him, but it's not a category I'm really too focused on. Like if I can add a center, sure, I'll do it. But Jordan Kyrou is still, I would say, a top player in St. Louis. Slow start, but I mean, the Blues are who they are. Robert Thomas is hurt, so I don't know what I'm going to get out of him, but I thought somebody was at least going to go for him. So, I mean, I may have walked in with a wallet a little bit more open because I wanted to make sure that I could scoop up a player. Like, again, same thing, right? He's not going to hit. He's not going to block shots. He's not doing all that stuff. That's not really a category. That's not why I get him. And as you can see by my team, most of them are not out there to do any hitting and any blocking of shots, which, again, sometimes there's certain categories you want to go out and win there. I'm trying to consistently win a couple of them and make sure that they're not even close. If I get some hits, great. Some block shots, I think I can steal a couple. Defensively, I got guys who can play on both sides, but I'm a sucker for the offense. That's what I want. I want guys who can put the puck in the net. I want some guys who can take some face-offs and win them. Now that Barkov is back, real happy about that. But I'm still focused on making sure that we collect the goals, assists, points, the shots, the whole jazz there.
No, I'm totally fine with what you spent on Kyrou, because if there's a guy you really want, and he's a guy that he's going to be the source of that offense. He's going to get you a ton of shots on goal, if nothing else. He's going to be the offense kind of runs through him in St. Louis. So, I mean, that's a guy that I think you'll hang on to, and I don't see you dropping him at any point. I mean, I know you got Matthews coming back soon. You'll have to make a move there, whoever that might be. But yeah, I didn't even realize Kyrou was out there. If he was out there, I probably would have made. I don't know. I don't know if I would have spent 15. I probably would have put 10. But like you said, you get a guy. If you're trying to build your team around scoring and winning those goals and assists every week, he's going to give you that, especially in a St. Louis team that doesn't always have a ton of offense, but he's going to be the guy that does it. Just bring up my team back up one more time here. And yeah, I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy with, once Makar comes back, it changes things. Luke Hughes still getting his footing after coming, starting the season a little bit later. We'll see what happens there. Shane Monahan's a guy that, yeah, he's doing everything in the top center spot, top power play spot, top penalty kill spot in Columbus. But at some point, I feel like he's going to cool off. Right? He's been off to a very good start. Maybe he keeps this going. Maybe, playing in memory of his best friend, he just rides that all season. But, as you see, still 30% rostered, only 2% in the last day, at least in Yahoo leagues. So people still hesitant on him. Deeper leagues, he's a guy you're going to go after more than, your shallower 8 to 10 team leagues.
I think the stigma there with Monahan and at least a lot of players is that they play in Columbus. Like, Columbus has not been as terrible as we thought they would be. They're bad, but they're not terrible. This is a team that's actually really good at suppressing shots. They don't give up a ton of quality shot opportunities. So they're not the whipping boy of like the league where you walk in and you just pepper them for like 50 shots and win 6-1 or something. They're a much better structured team under Dean Evanson. There's less of that, just slapping around. They're going to get beat up every once in a while, yes, but they're not as terrible as people think they are. And I think that plays into Sean Monahan as well. As long as Columbus plays well, Monahan will produce. And if anything, I mean, he's taken a ton of faceoffs.
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy who's going to go out there and take a bunch of faceoffs when you need him. So that's a good have.
One other guy got mentioned earlier in the show before we move on to TMP and say farewell on this edition of Total Hockey Now. You can see the scrolling across the bottom of the screen, all the ways to get in touch with us there on social media. Also, totalhockeynow@gmail.com if you want to shoot a direct message, always checking that. Dylan Strome, looking at his game log, we talked about him earlier, and just 2 assists, 1 assist, a goal and 2 assists, 2 assists, 2 assists. Oh, he didn't have a point in that game. Oh, well, 1 assist, goal and 2 assists, goal. Like, he's only not registered a point in 1 game this year. So this has probably been one of my favorite late round picks or waiver wire additions in some leagues. And he's a guy I don't think I'm going to be dropping at all this year.
No, that's, I mean, sometimes the ice time there looks a little bit inconsistent, but at that point, it's just like, if you get what you need, I mean, just go for it. Those were 2 blowout wins. So maybe, you let 4 lines roll and you kind of go out there and just do your thing. But he's consistently going to get those face-offs. I don't think he's going to take every single important draw because I don't think that's his strength, but he's going to be a good, like in that range, 7 to 10 kind of face-off wins a night. That's what I'm expecting from him. I'm not looking at him to generate a ton of shots, right? So if you're looking for him to shoot the puck on goal, you are going to be disappointed because that is not his job on his line. That is not his job on the power play. It's certainly not his job. But when he gets a shot on net, it's kind of like an accident, or he was trying to bank it off the pads and see if Ovi can one-time it. But he's going to rack up the assists. He's getting that top power play time. So those are the categories you're going to try to win with him. We're trying to get at least 3 out of him. And so far, so good. Still criminal. He's only 63% owned in Yahoo leagues. Like I don't know. He's at 19 points already. He's top scorer for the Capitals. Are we just not like? Are we not paying attention, or are we just not believing? You know what I mean? Like which one?
I think it's just the name and past years were like, oh, he's good. He's a borderline fantasy guy that should stay on a roster. Whereas sometimes the reputation needs to catch up a little bit. He is absolutely if you need a center and you are a league with faceoffs, or you need help with assists, or even power play points. There's a lot of things he provides. So that number should be at least in the 70s. I understand you can't have everybody. That number should probably be a little bit higher. So any other teams or that you want to go through, any of the players on your respective teams you want to talk about before we do TMP and get out of here?
Gene, if you're listening, I'm still open to acquiring Kirill Kaprizov. I'm not sure how many dollar bills I'll have to send you, but I'm still open to it. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but
I don't know why you would trade him right now. You'd have to get a king's ransom.
He probably won't, and that's fair. But every once in a while, I just look at Kirill and I'm like, man, I don't have him. And then I look at
quite
Makar.
the roster there.
He does. That's a
Nathan
big boy
too.
roster. That's a big boy roster right there. The goaltending we've talked about, but that is a big boy roster up there. You got guys who are doing a lot of different things. This was a well-constructed team. Unfortunately, he has Kirill Kaprizov, and I can't benefit from that.
Even Stefan Nason, we talked about Dawson Mercer before, kind of like a similar, level player, but maybe he's got a little bit more of a leg up there, 6 and 7. He gets you the hits. He takes occasional faceoffs there, 13 faceoff wins, so that gives him a little bit more value. But yeah, strong team.
6 goals on 22 shots, though. I mean, if we're talking about cashing in on somebody's value, I mean that's him. That's him.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we like to check in with the league every week here on Total Hockey Now. Gives us a little more opportunity to talk fantasy and about some specific players there. So here we go. Time for a little TMP before we wrap things up. And so far only one pick each because we didn't do it last week. I got a little too busy with the Halloween candy draft, which you could go back and watch if you haven't yet. But the previous week, Chris and I went 0-1. Anthony went 1-0 with his pick last week. So he's the early leader out of the gate. I'll let Chris go first. What is your pick from tonight's 12-game NHL slate?
You're never going to believe this, but Colorado is not a good hockey team, and they are heading north of the border to Winnipeg to take on the 12-1 Jets. The Jets are the highest scoring team in the league. They also have the best power play in the league. Colorado, we know their struggles, right? Their penalty kill, the power play is good. I'm expecting a lot of power play kind of stuff to be really exciting. Alexander Georgiev is getting the start there. I cannot trust that fraud ever. He has more holes than one of those like wood goalies that you put in the net there kind of to help you target practice. That's like, he's got more holes than that. So I have smashed the Georgiev over 3.5 goals in as many places as I can find it. I need Georgiev though to not get lit up in the first 4 minutes. Like I can't have him give up 3 goals on 5 shots and then get yanked. I need him to give up 4 goals. Yeah. Just make it past the first period possible. So you can give up an extra one. But I have the Jets winning this in regulation, man. I don't think this is close. And if Makar doesn't start either, if he doesn't play, I mean, what are the Colorado Avalanche going to do?
I think he's playing, and I think that maybe changes things a little bit. Colorado's been playing better lately, but it's just how do you pick against Winnipeg right now?
If he does play, let's say he does, how healthy is that ankle? Like, is he going to play his regular 25, 26 minutes? I don't know, especially if that game starts to get out of reach. I don't know. I mean, the Jets are 12-1, and Alexander Gorgiev is not good. So, and the Jets power play is operating at 44%. Just, I don't know, man. That just seems like not every bet is a guaranteed winner, but I will say this: I already spent some of the winnings on that bet on some candy before. So,
and here's the thing: you're not going to get good value on a money line bet there, but you make it a regulation win, a win in 60, and that certainly helps there. So there we go.
He's got plus 105. Also, how I know you said the money line's not that bad. It opened at 140. Okay. That is a little bit criminal here because people people think that the Colorado Avalanche are good, and they are not. The Jets are 12-1 and the highest scoring offense in the league with a power play that's operating at 44%. Show them some respect. They should not be only 140 as it opened. That was I thought that line should be closer to 200 where it should have been. And I sucked up the value. Like, if the Jets lose, they lose, right? But if Colorado's losing, this is a blowout. This is like a 6-2, 6-3 game. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like this game isn't close at all.
Now, you mentioned plus 105. That's what I got the Kings money line at. I go at home against the Canucks tonight. The Kings currently sit in second place in the Pacific. The Canucks third, slight home underdog there. Not sure exactly why, but Darcy Kemper is going to likely get the start tonight, and Kevin Lankinen is confirmed for Vancouver. Here's my thinking here: both teams coming in on 2-game winning streaks. The Kings and their last couple of let's start with the Canucks, who 2-game winning streak at San Jose, at Anaheim. They had a nice big win 2 nights ago. Anaheim got the first goal in that game, and then they scored 5 unanswered. So they're coming in with a little bit of momentum. But they are taking a step up in, we'll say, weight class. An opponent here from the Sharks and the Ducks versus the Kings at home. End of a road trip. Edmonton's the next game. It's too early in the season for look-ahead games. But, anytime it's the last game of a road trip, sometimes that can be problematic. So we'll take that there. Whereas the Kings, they're coming in on 2-game winning streak. They won both games on the road at a struggling Predators team, but did shut them out 3-0. And then go up to Minnesota and beat them 5-1. Who Minnesota's been good out the gate, so I'll take that momentum there. Give me the Kings on the money line at home plus 105. So Ant's got a pick as well here as the one winner so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the total goals here. I have the Islanders versus Ottawa over 5.5. I want to say in the last 10 games, 7 of those games, the Ottawa Senators have scored 3 or more goals. So I think that they'll do very well against this Islanders team. I'll say this, though, when they win these games that they score a lot of goals in, whether it was against the Kings, you look at the trying to go see which other ones here. There's just a couple of games here. They won 8-7 against the Kings in one of these games. Anytime they score a lot of goals, the other team scores just as equal amount. So I'm going to take the over there on the 5.5.
Let me just write that down.
And then, like you said, the last 3 games, 7, 7, and 7. Yeah, it was a little bit of a dry spell for the Islanders before that, but offense starting to come alive there. And Senators, their last couple of games, lost 5-1, won 3-0. So maybe they're not scoring as much the last few games, but if the Islanders keep things open, then maybe that over at 5.5 hits. It's definitely 5.5. You go over 6, maybe it's a push, but that 5.5, maybe you just beat it there. So there you go, a little TMP. Now let's wrap things up here on episode 67 of Total Hockey Now. Besides going 9 for 9 on Puckdoku, what do we got on Slapshot podcast this week?
Tomorrow we will do it again. New episode drops on the Friday. We're going to do a couple of Fridays since I have time to do so. So we're going to do Puckdoku again and hope that the Puckdoku gods give me another layup. That was a layup that I got. That 9 out of 9 was a layup. That was an easy one. I feel like I was blessed. I was blessed with a little bit of here's an easy one. So we're going to do another one. We're going to get some cool stuff, some cool news, wrap up the whole kind of thing. I'll see which fan base I'll insult tomorrow when I wake up, depending on how I feel. it could be the Winnipeg Jets, man, if they don't do their job tonight. So like figure it
24
out.
teams in action, so it could be anybody.
Could be anybody, right? There are obviously some teams that are leaders here up higher on the board, but especially teams that I got money on, like those are the teams that go straight to the top when they don't do their job. That, or we'll wait for, are the Rangers in action tonight?
Rangers are indeed in action tonight.
They are. So maybe Jacob Trouba will throw a questionable elbow and we can talk about that.
I mean, they're playing Buffalo at home. For some reason, I like Lafreniere to score tonight. I just got a feeling. So there's a goal prop for you. It's just he plays well against Buffalo, so we'll see what happens there. But it's just Sturkin versus UPL. And we got Montembeault and Markstrom going against one another for the Canadians Devils for you two guys going head to head. And I love that U.S. Open shirt. It almost feels three-dimensional with that racket over the top. But what do you got going on with the Subway to Shea podcast?
Well, we just got through with the general manager meetings. A lot was said during that, and probably the biggest thing to come out today was the fact that Steve Cohen is going to visit Juan Soto. So the courting of Juan Soto has begun. Let's see if he's going to pony up the money to get him, because I know he's going to cost a buttload of money. But that'll be coming up probably on Sunday night.
Juan Soto made it clear that he's listening to all 30 baseball teams. So
very clear. He didn't even let the World Series sink in.
Yeah, he's listening to all 30 teams, whether you're a playoff team last year or you're like the Rays looking for a new home or the Marlins. If you want to open up your pocketbook, he's listening. Now, from what I understand, is that Cohen's not going to let this guy get away. He's going to maybe not give him a blank check, but close to it.
Yeah, that's what seems to be the talk of the town here, and we'll see. I think it's gonna be between both New York teams. We'll see how it plays out, and if the Mets decide to go all in, or they decide to distribute that wealth elsewhere, because they got a lot of money coming off the books this year.
Maybe it's Juan Soto to Queens and Pete Alonso to the Bronx kind of deal.
Possible.
I mean, it'll be an easy move, right? He doesn't really have to go anywhere, so. I mean, maybe from a travel perspective. I just don't want you to be sad, and you know what I mean. Like you've gone through so much heartbreak already. I don't want you to get your hopes up and then, have the rug pulled out by I don't know. Maybe he signs with the Dodgers on another deferred deal for $900 million or something. I don't know. I
swear, if they figure something out like that, no, just. And listen, I'm a Yankee fan saying that. And by the way, it is a 9.5 miles from Yankee Stadium to Citi Field, but in a 6 p.m. Eastern time rush hour traffic, that's going to take you about anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes to go 9.5 miles. So there you go.
Wait, how many kilometers is that for us that use the rest of the system that the rest of the world uses?
Let's see, 9.5 miles, 2 kilometers. I don't know the formula. That would be 12. It would be 15.2 kilometers.
Okay. Just, for the Canadians, we're trying to do some math here. We solved it. Next week, we'll do Celsius. No, we did Celsius to Fahrenheit on whether it was cold in Arizona, in Vegas or not. Next week, we could work on the fact that Canada has milk in a bag. Because I know some of you get confused when you see Canadians holding milk in a bag. It does come in a bag and not just in a jug.
I did have to do when I worked in the veterinary field, there was you had to go from pounds to kilograms. I used to have to do that all the time because all the drug stuff is done in kilograms. It's not done in so I would have to dust that off to know what that philosophy is. But yeah, maybe one day we can be with the rest of the world on the metric system, but I better be careful if I say that. Nonetheless, here we go. Let's wrap things up here. It's been a great edition of Total Hockey Now, and I got a Rip and Riff new episode out this week. Jared and I had a blast there. Don't forget to check that out over at Rip and Riff on YouTube and Facebook. But for at Ant Rivera 86 and at Fuzzy Chris 91, I'm at Puckline Talks. Back with you next Thursday with an all new edition of Total Hockey Now. Hey, maybe we'll do that question. First team, Chris already gave the Predators. Maybe we'll talk to somebody else. We'll see. Thanks for always tuning in. Back to you next week. Total Hockey Now.